Hello, I'm retired Battalion Chief Larry Cockman from the Greensboro, North Carolina Fire Department, History Book Committee. We're here today at the Greensboro Historical Museum. I'm standing in front of the General Green, the first steam pumper, or as they called it back then, the steamer. Today, December 9th, 2019, we are starting a new tradition of recording and preserving the heritage and culture of our retirees. Our retirees have contributed so much to the success of our great fire department. Their stories retire with them and are sometimes gone forever when they pass away. They will share their emergency calls that will always be a part of their memories forever. So sit back and listen as they carry us through their journey in the Greensboro Fire Department.
Yeah, my name is William Gary Faulk, F-A-U-L-K. I was a captain on the engine company for the biggest part of my career. I did do some time on a ladder company. I was at Central Station for 11 years prior to going to Station 12 as the driver, as the EU station opening up. And I spent 3 years at Station 12. Then I got promoted to captain and went to Truck 3 at that time. It's Fire Station number 9 on Friendly Avenue. From there, I worked there about a year. Then I went to Station 10 on the engine. About a year there, and then I went to Station 8, which was kind of something I'm a little bit proud of. They come and asked me, this is when the females came on the fire department, and they came and asked me, they said, well, would my wife be upset if I worked with a female? And of course, no was the answer, and that's when I went to Station 8. And I worked there a couple of years, and then I went to Station 11, and I worked there 11 years. Well, I was just out of the military. I had served 3 years in the Army, and had just gotten out of the military, and I was a military policeman. So I went to the employment board or agency, whatever it was, and they was determined to put me on the police department, and I was determined not to be because I had enough of police work. So I walked out of the thing, and I had heard about the fire department through my father. Had a good friend who was on the fire department. It was John B. Nicholson. And so I said, well, I'm going to go down and see what they do. And I walked in, got an application from Chief Boucher at the time, and brought it back and filled it out. And they called me in a couple of weeks and said, be prepared to start training. So, yeah, did I think I was going to be a firefighter? No, it didn't cross my mind until that day when I walked out of the employment office. Well, I didn't really know anything about the fire department prior to that. I remember one time we had a fire in our home, and the fireman saved our house, really. The story goes there, I was in high school at the time, and fire trucks went out. The fire station was near the school, and everybody went over and looked to see which way it was going. And this one girl said, Gary, they're going to your house. I said, nah. Sure enough, they were. And my baby brother had gotten in the bedroom and had playing with some matches or something and set the bedroom on fire. But it was confined to the bedroom, and the fireman really did a great job of saving the house. This new group was hired on, and there was already some people hired who had been working riding the trucks. And we were going to finish, and then they were going to do training right after us, and we replaced them while they trained. So we really didn't get an assignment until after that, after, say, 12 weeks, or I think it was about 6 weeks. Some of the people were already on the fire department that went through our class, Jerry Branson and Howard O'Farrell, who had been dispatchers prior to starting training. Stephen Faulks was in my class. Spooky Phillips, I don't know if I know you remember him. Levi Miller, Ronnie Osborne, Calvin Smith. Yes, my starting salary was $312 a month. Back at top pay, I think, was $400. And I thought, if I ever make $400, I can buy anything I want. Kind of, Stephen Faust and I kind of were in the Army together. We was went in the same time. Of course, we went to different places, and in fact, we met in Charlotte. Stephen and I were being inducted into the Army. Wow. And I didn't see him no more until we were inducted into the fire department. Do you remember? Yeah, our first week of training, it was kind of a detail week. We did a lot of cleaning up and painting. We painted the training center, the trim woodwork doors and stuff. And Phil Hockett and he was in our class, were painting on the back doors of the training center, and Chief Powell had told us to go ahead and paint the glass. So, so some of the other fellows didn't know that was the order, so we started painting the glass. And said, whoa, wait a minute, you can't do that. So anyway, we got them on that. It was pretty much after or during training or after training that, hey, everybody can't do this. I mean, I felt like that was the point. And we had some people who dropped out of training and that sort of thing. And yeah, I was at Central Station for that period of time, I was telling you, till the other group went through training. And after that, I was a roving fireman. You walk in, there's four fire trucks there, 2 ladder companies and 2 engine companies. And you had to back them in off the street. There was no drive-through parts of it. That was the apparatus floor. The bedrooms was upstairs. No, not bedrooms, bedroom. The captains did have a room separate from the firefighters. One big bathroom upstairs. The kitchen was downstairs off to the right. And before my time there, the kitchen was the garage, what I understand, but before they moved the garage out on Church Street. But fire prevention had an office in the building. They were back in the other corner, opposite from the kitchen. The back part was we had very little space in the back. It was a used car lot from off of Elm Street, Tom Settlemeyer's used cars. But the upstairs bedroom, when I first got there, it wasn't air conditioned. And it was really, really hot. We had opened the windows, all the windows on both sides, and mosquitoes. You had to stay covered up, and even in the summertime, keep mosquitoes. But they did air condition it while I was there, and it turned out to be really nice. Oh, they were just like roll-away, well, they wasn't cots, but they were just single beds on a metal frame beds. Yeah, the poles were always attraction when the tour groups come through, the kids coming around, but they were dangerous too. And then there was a couple of firefighters who got injured pretty bad with broken legs off from the poles. There were 6. There was 3 in the big auditorium room in the front and 3 in the bedroom. Now, when they air conditioned the bedroom, they put covers over the ones in the bedroom, and so you had to run out into the other thing, which wasn't just a few steps over to that. But the poles were dangerous going down them, and it also dangerous to people. When you come down, somebody ran too close to the pole, you could come right on top of them, really. Yeah, it required a nickname when I was there as the Animal House. Now, I think that happened before I got there. Yes, my son is a battalion chief in Battalion 5.
His name?
His name is Daniel William Faulk, fireman. And there were only 2 shifts at the time, and actually my boss was Chief Christopher, who was the shift commander. And every day at my assignment, I'd call him the next day. He'd tell me, what station to go to. Well, it happened at the time, there was a person out sick on extended leave down at Station 11, and I stayed down there for the biggest part of the time. But I did work at all the other stations, 1 or 2 nights, and that was quite an experience. But then after that, I was assigned to Engine 2. I got to meet all the other firemen, and I learned a lot about other territories and the other stations. But you didn't have a locker, you had to live out of your car and that sort of thing. E.C. Parrish was the first captain I had on Engine 2. Well, I stayed there for 11 years. Of course, they started rotating the captains after we went on to 3 shifts. But a lot about just how to operate on the fire ground and at the station. And we're out in the drill lot up there at Station 1, and somebody had the hose. Somebody got wet. So James T. Ritchie got the hose. He was another one that was in my class, training test. So somebody went running out the street in front of the Moore Scott building. So Ritchie took off after him right with the hose. And 2 distinguished gentlemen in suits were walking right down the street. He turned the corner and had the hose right on him. So so they went right down to Chief Wyrick's office, and James T. took care of a laundry bill, I think. Shift work was 24 on and 24 off to begin with, but there was such thing as a Kelly day. Every 16 days you got a day off, which meant you had 3 days off in a row. And I believe it was about every 90 days you got 2 days off, so it's 5 days in a row. And it really worked out good. We thought that was good, but when we went to 3 shifts, this was better. That would be, work 1 day and off 2. But the Kelly days was nice. You could build your vacation, start them with a Kelly day and end them with a Kelly day, and you could have a pretty long period of time off. And you had to take all your vacation at once back in them days. Between the time I got out of service and the time I went on the fire department, I worked at a window company out off High Point Road at the time. And I went back there after I got out of training and worked part-time. We built the windows and doors and delivered them to the job sites. So I did that on my off time for maybe 4 or 5 years. And then I painted with Sunshine Paint Company, Dave Sharp's company. And I also painted some with Robert Atkins too. I helped him some. Sometimes I'd get out of bed and I'd say, hey, I get to go to work today. And that was how much fun we had at the fire station. I mean, it was, not every day was like that, but a lot of days were. Lots of friends, through training. One in particular, Calvin Smith, and he and I worked at 10 for a while together, and then at the end we worked at Station 11. He was captain on the truck company. Talking at the fire station, and this happened a lot, just people you can, I don't know, you tell things you wouldn't normally tell everybody at the fire stations, yeah. It was like your brothers or sisters. Greensboro had the box alarms. They called master boxes, and then the master boxes were all hooked into businesses. And the alarm would come in, box number 12. Well, the thing would sound off, one dong on the bell, and then 2. They'd do that 3 times, and you'd know that box 12 was at so-and-so street. Probably, I think, about the 200 block of South Church Street. If you remember, along there was an old boarding house. there in a rooming house, and about noontime one day, we got the call, and got there, and the living room of the old house was pretty well involved, and everybody was out, but I remember Jack Rumley. I backed him up on the hose line. First time I'd really been into a real hot fire burning situation. But it was smoking fire, and I don't think we had air packs on, not until later. We took the hose line in, and I can remember other fires too. I remember I believe it was Scott's Seed Company on Green Street fire, and we were in there overhauling, had our air packs on. Fire was out, and we was shoveling out, cleaning out the place, and Herman Cruz and I were shoveling out debris, and Captain Johnny Fountain tapped us on the shoulder. He said, "Y'all don't need them air packs no more." So I said, "Okay." So I took it off, and I said, "Good grief, I couldn't have to stay in there." And he was walking around in there all the time. I remember going to a call out off of Bessemer. I was on Engine 2, or off East Market Street, actually. And the lady had she died from smoke inhalation. The fire had smoldered and practically gone out when we got there. But her legs were burnt off. I mean, gone. No ashes, nothing. And she was laying in the bed. There was a cigarette butt laying on her shoulder about right here. Now, I don't know if it was careless smoking that set the bed on fire or what, but that's the way she was there. One of the worst ones, the ones that stuck with me most, was on a fire call on Park Avenue one night. And we got in the house and put the fire out, and the mother was bending over in the crib, right with her baby in her arms. And that's how we found them. Mother's bent over in the crib there, both dead.
Do you think with firefighters,
yeah, sometimes you remember them, and any fire involving children, that's what, or anything hurting children, that seems like it's always worse. I mean, I can handle adults. There was no ambulance service. The funeral homes handled ambulance service when I went on the fire department, and sometimes the funeral home would call, so we got a medical call, somewhere so-and-so. Can we pick up a fireman? And they did, and we'd go out and stand on the street. Haynes Lineberry or Forbes and Dick would come by. You'd jump in the ambulance, and away you go. I answered a call like that one time down to, and I can't remember which funeral home, whether it was Forbes and Dick or Haynes Lineberry, but it was at Freeman Mill Road and Florida Street. And it was a police officer who was on his way home from work and had a heart attack in his car at the stoplight, more or less. And somehow the people had gotten the car out of the street. But when we got there, he was still sitting behind the wheel. Of course, he was, he had passed away. I think I always kind of, in my mind, kind of admired Chief Powell, because he was our training officer when we went through, and it seemed like he knew all the answers all the time.
He probably did.
Yeah. When Jesse Gray died, got killed, stands back in my mind real easy. He was on the other shift. I come to work the next morning to relieve him. And, of course, I already knew about it because somebody had called me, and I don't remember who. But that stands out in my mind. And that particular day, we had two fatalities. Lacey Nelson, who was another fireman, had passed away, I think, on the same day, about 4 o'clock that afternoon. And he was down at Chapel Hill. I don't know, we all just thought about what can we do? Or, everybody in the station was just walking around kind of like in a daze or whatever. So how could this happen? I know somebody made the comment, we had 2 funeral wreaths on Central Station at the same time. One for Lacey and one for Jesse. He had a blood, I'm not sure what it was, a blood disease of some type. He had been sick, like at Christmas or something, and I come to work on Christmas morning, and Lacey was sitting back there on the back bench there at old station, Central Station. And I made the comment, I said, you have a rough night or something? As I went by, he said, no, I'm sick. And he did, he went home, I went to the doctor that day, and that was like on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve. And he passed away on December 31st, I believe. But they had transported him to Chapel Hill because it makes you feel good that you were able to do something, because nobody ever called you unless they really needed help. And that was one of the things about the fire service, I think, is if they call you, somebody's in trouble. And I really enjoyed my career, and I felt strong enough about it. I advised my son it would be a good career there. But since 9/11, all the equipment is so much better. You don't see the old fire trucks now like we used to have. Reserves are even good equipment now. Used to, if you had to go to his reserve, you hated that because it'd be some kind of old junky.
I can relate to that.
Yeah. Well, I am a master mason with Greensboro Lodge number 76. I've been doing, not so much in the last year, I've kind of phased out, but a reenactment company, Civil War reenactment, where we do go to Civil War events and reenact them. Okay. We were 27th North Carolina Company B, which was Guilford Grays, which was raised in the Guilford County here, and when we did a federal impression, we were the 14th U.S. Regulars. Wife was very supportive of me, and she belonged at the time to the, what they call it, the Women's Auxiliary. And one particular fire where I was away, I was on a fishing trip down to Santee Cooper when the bonded warehouse burned. She was there, and she used to be a smoker. But she said after that fire, she laid her cigarettes down and never smoked again after that fire. She never, well, I'd say learn all you can about your job. And find people to help you with learning all you can, and work with them.
We hope you enjoyed watching these documentaries. It was our goal to share and preserve the memories of our retired Greensboro firefighters. It is our desire that these documentaries will inspire future generations to continue the brotherhood, sisterhood, and camaraderie while always striving for excellence in their careers. While fire apparatus, equipment, and technology have improved, several things will always remain the same. The courage and bravery it takes to mitigate natural and man-made disasters will always be a part of the job. Although our retirees are no longer a physical part of the GFD world, a giant piece of each retiree's memories have been shared with you today. These memories will be in their hearts and minds forever. A special thank you goes out to Captain Harold Haney for his many long hours of recording and editing. Thank you, Harold. A job well done.